Palestine, Israeli occupation forces shelled the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone, killing at least 11 civilians. In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump will ask the State Department to restrict birthright citizenship as of January 20th. And in Cuba, authorities registered a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in the eastern provinces. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, at least 11 people were killed in a wave of attacks by the Israeli occupation forces in the Al-Mawasi area south of the Gaza Strip. The Zionist armed forces said that the attack allegedly targeted Hamas members located in the designated humanitarian zone near the town of Han Yunis. During the operation, an Israeli drone strike set fire to refugee tents, in addition to attacking a civilian car and a vehicle carrying security personnel. In the aftermath, the Gaza Strip Civil Defense Service indicated they were able to recover a number of bodies and wounded from the site of the bombing.
We were sleeping in the tent. None of us is wanted, nor is anyone around us. So why are they bombing us while we're sitting in our tents? They are the ones who told us to head to the tents in the Mawasi area of Khan Yunis. So how can they bombard us with their missiles on our tents?
Also in Palestine on Monday, Israeli genocidal troops shelled the Nuseirat refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, leaving many dead and wounded. According to medical sources, at least 5 people were killed and over 20 were injured. The northwest of the Palestinian enclave where this refugee camp is located has been under attack since early Monday morning. In this context, Zionist troops hit a school that housed refugees, killing 1. So far, Israel's genocidal onslaught has killed 45,259 people in Gaza, more than 70% of whom are women and children, a figure that is not conclusive as there are thousands of bodies still under the rubble. Israeli occupation forces made 10 illegal arrests against Palestinian citizens in the West Bank on Monday. According to social organizations of former Palestinian prisoners, the detentions by Zionist forces took place in the governorates of Hebron, Nablus, Ramallah, and Bethlehem, among others. Likewise, they denounced that since the onset of the Israeli offensive in October 2023, the Tel Aviv regime increased its investigation and arrest operations in civilian populated areas in the Gaza Strip. The recent wave of Israeli repression coincides with the constant bombings on Palestinian families that have claimed over 45,000 lives, mostly those of women and children. And UNRWA Commissioner General Philip Lazzarini stressed that all the rules of war have been violated against Palestine. Through his social media, the UNRWA Commissioner General reiterated his calls for a ceasefire and the immediate release of the hostages, stressing that there has been an escalation of the genocide against Gaza in the last 24 hours. He also reported that more civilians have been killed and wounded and that attacks on schools and hospitals have become a regular occurrence. In this regard, the Commissioner further stressed that a ceasefire in Gaza is long overdue. And Palestinian musicians tour refugee camps to teach displaced children how to sing and play instruments. All this in the midst of the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip. Let's see.
Despite the poor conditions resulting from the humanitarian crisis affecting the Palestinians, groups of musicians decided to give music lessons in the Rafah camps.
My colleagues are helping me with this initiative. The idea came about because of the difficult conditions in Rafah, where I was staying in a shelter for artists during the war. The psychological conditions were very bad, and it occurred to me to take up the guitar and sing with the children in the camp.
The idea of this Palestinian artist is to promote a different perspective of life. Despite the chaotic environment, and the lack of requirements to meet the daily needs of the population.
The people in the camps did not fully understand the idea of music, as their priorities during the war were food, water, and shelter. Despite these difficulties, I insisted on my position and continued with the initiative. Thank God, people began to realize the importance of music.
Soon, however, a group of musicians joined the tour of each refugee camp to bring a little joy through music and art in the midst of the devastation caused by the Israeli occupation in the Palestinian territory.
We had left Beit Hanan. We didn't have any musical instruments. I spent 3 months looking for an instrument so that I could teach the children. Despite all these difficulties, we managed to carry on and bring joy to the children in the midst of these difficult circumstances.
The Palestinian people are making efforts to maintain hope in the midst of the difficult circumstances they have been facing for the past year and 2 months, when Israel intensified the siege that led to the genocide they are living through today, which has claimed more than 45,259 martyrs.
The Iranian government reaffirmed its support for the sovereignty of Syria and stressed that this country should not become a safe haven for terrorism. Regarding the latest developments in Syria, Iran emphasized that its main stance is to preserve the sovereignty and integrity of this country and that Syrians should decide on their future without foreign interference. Government authorities further warned that all countries should be careful not to normalize Israel's psychological warfare and its plan to create insecurity in the region.
In the future, based on the approach of the ruling authorities, we will decide on our relations. The current situation in Syria is unclear. It is important that Syria does not become a safe haven and a place for the rise of terrorism.
Let's now take our first short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump will ask the State Department not to grant birthright citizenship as of January 20th. According to the President-elect's team, among the eventual measures for Trump's second administration will be not issuing passports to children with undocumented parents and tightening requirements for tourist visas. In this sense, Trump, as a candidate, developed his 2024 election campaign with an anti-immigrant rhetoric and promised the largest deportations in the U.S. history. Sources familiar with the issue assured that the plans of not granting birthright citizenship would end in a legal battle that will go all the way to the Supreme Court. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump reiterated his threats to Panamanian officials, assuring that if they do not follow the relevant instructions, they will have to hand over the Panama Canal to Washington promptly and without question. In a statement, Trump stressed that if the Panamanian government fails to comply with orders, he will demand that the interoceanic waterway be returned to Washington in its entirety. Likewise, the U.S. President-elect emphasized that if Panama cannot respect the historic agreements or guarantee a safe, efficient, and reliable operation of the canal, then it should be taken away from them. Furthermore, Donald Trump assured that the United States will not tolerate that Panama wants to ignore its instructions.
But it was given to Panama and to the people of Panama, but it has provisions. You got to treat us fairly, and they haven't treated us fairly. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question. I'm not going to stand for it. So to the officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly.
And in the midst of the outlook on the statements made by United States President-elect Donald Trump regarding the Panama Canal, Panamanian President Jose Raul Mulino reaffirmed that the country's sovereignty over the canal is non-negotiable.
As president, I want to express precisely that every square meter of the Panama Canal and its adjacent areas belongs to Panama and will continue to belong to Panama. The sovereignty and independence of our country are not negotiable. Every Panamanian here or anywhere in the world has it in his heart, and it is part of our history of struggle and an irreversible conquest. The Torrijos-Carter Treaties of 1977 agreed the dissolution of the former canal zone, recognizing the Panamanian sovereignty and the complete surrender of the canal to Panama, which ended on December 31st, 1999, and soon we will celebrate the 25th anniversary of this transfer. Since then, there were no objections or claims. On the contrary, it has been a reason for strong international support and national pride.
In this context, China reaffirmed its support to Panama in the face of the U.S. threats regarding the sovereignty of the canal.
The Panama Canal is a great creation of the Panamanian people and a golden waterway that promotes global connectivity. China has always supported the Panamanian people in their just struggle to preserve the sovereignty of the canal.
South Korean police found evidence of provocative plans against North Korea as part of the investigation launched into the executive over the martial law decree. The material was among the possessions seized from the residence of former military intelligence commander No Sang-won, who is currently detained. The police report accounted for a memorandum of some 70 pages detailing an attack on the northern boundary line and the inter-Korean maritime border. The discovery reinforces the frequent allegations by North Korea, which the United Nations Security Council has disregarded several times. Russian Defense Ministry announced Monday that its armed forces liberated Storach village in Donetsk. The military briefing ensured that liberating such village, located about 5 kilometers southwest of Balikia Novosilka town, was a key breakthrough. It is worth remarking that Storoseve is close to Zaporizhia, where the Russian army has been deployed. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian troops have suffered casualties in the 46th and 79th Brigades, according to Russian war correspondents. Moreover, they claim to be trapped in what they describe as the Kurakovo sack. In all the heaviest clashes are being staged between the Seronovka and Ulakli areas, where the key interception for the transit of troops and vehicles to Zaporizhia is located. And Switzerland announced that it will not hold a second conference on Ukraine, stressing that it is preparing to hold ceasefire talks. The Swiss diplomatic department specified that the main issue now is the preparations for the ceasefire talks. For its part, the Russian embassy in Bern declared its readiness for a constructive dialogue on the situation in Ukraine, with the Swiss representatives recalling that the attempts of the Western countries to impose the Kiev-style peace formula on Russia will not change their situation. And the Russian government reported at least 2 dead and several injured after an explosion in an industrial building in Abakan City in southern Siberia. The governor said that the incident occurred due to a safety regulation breach in a routine operation. In this regard, the deputy governor of the province explained that the accident was due to the explosion of a vessel during some hydraulic tests, and detailed that investigations have begun to find its owner. In the aftermath of the incident, the authority informed 2 people died and several were injured, adding no material damages were reported. And the Alliance of Sahel States, made up of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, declares itself on high alert following the actions of the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS extended the suspension of the 3 countries for another 6 months. Its leaders claim that this is a unilateral decision that prevents successful cooperation between the 2 alliances. They described the decision as an attempt at destabilization by a few heads of states of the alliance and warned that they are serving imperialist and neocolonialist ambitions. The Alliance of Sahel States accuses foreign powers of carrying out a forced withdrawal from the region. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. Here you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake shook eastern Cuba early Monday morning. The National Center for Seismological Research reported that the tremor was registered at 1 a.m. local time. Preliminary data from the entity indicated that it occurred some 35 kilometers southwest of Chivirico, main town of the Guamá municipality in Santiago de Cuba. Experts further detailed that the earthquake has been felt in Santiago de Cuba, Guantánamo, Camagüey, and Ciego de Ávila. In addition, the authorities reported there are no registered deaths, injured, or significant material damage, noting they keep monitoring the seismological activity in the area. And in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum ratified to President-elect of the United States that she would not accept any type of interference. In this way, she responded to the declarations of the Republican Donald Trump, who stated among the range of intimidations he made on Sunday to several countries in the world that he would declare the Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. In this context, the head of state ratified that she maintains the same tenor of previous communications with the next president and reminded the world that Mexico is not subordinate to the United States.
I said it in the letter I wrote to President Donald Trump, who will take office in January of next year. The drugs are mainly consumed there.
Allá se consume la droga, principalmente. De allá vienen las armas.
The weapons come from there, and here we put our lives. No, we collaborate, coordinate, work together, but we will never subordinate ourselves. Mexico is a free, sovereign, and independent country, and we do not accept interference in our country.
In El Salvador, social movements continue to protest the thousands of layoffs being implemented by the government as a pressure from the International Monetary Fund to reduce public spending. During the activity called El Cacerolazo, social organizations expressed their rejection of the illegal layoffs carried out by the government of President Nayib Bukele. Demonstrators also expressed their concern for the impact that these cuts have on essential public services, highlighting the closure of healthcare units. It should be noted that the layoffs affected the employees of ministries, autonomous agencies, municipalities, and entities such as the Supreme Court of Justice and the Supreme Electoral Court. And in Venezuela, Attorney General Tarek William Saab reported a new day of evaluation of judicial cases related to the post-electoral violence. In coordination with the judicial power, 177 revisions have been agreed upon for those prosecuted after the serious events that sought to generate a civil war after the presidential elections of July 28th. To date, a total of 910 releases from prison have been granted in the framework of the due process guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic. The Attorney General said the Public Ministry will continue the process of exhaustive review of these cases in defense of peace, justice, and human rights. And the Venezuelan government works intensively on the development of the 18 key sectors of the economy as part of the national plan for the country's recovery. Oil Minister Delcy Rodriguez supervised the production system capacity of the Western Basin in Zulia State and inspected the Ana Maria Campos petrochemical complex and the Bajo Grande thermoelectric plant. Venezuela plans to increase its oil production up to 2 million barrels per day, besides exporting gas for the first time in its history. And the great jungle of southeastern Venezuela is a sea of green with rocky giants rising up to the sky. The great savanna where the Canaima National Park is located, and which in 1994 UNESCO declared a World Heritage Site, is an unearthly paradise that invites us to explore its wonders.
Canaima National Park, whose surface area exceeds 3 million hectares, is among the 6 largest national parks in the world. A territory dominated by tepuis, these flat-top plateaus have been carved over millions of years, and some even reach heights of up to 3,000 meters above sea level. A unique landscape on Earth that harbors an incredible biological variety.
Que alberga una increíble variedad biológica.
This park is home to more than 700 species of birds, 100 species of mammals, and thousands of plants. It is a fragile and valuable ecosystem where nature expresses itself in all its splendor. Waterfalls such as the Churin Meru, the highest in the world, rivers that cross the savanna, and colorful lagoons that reflect the sky complete this picture of incomparable beauty.
Completan este cuadro de belleza incomparable. The
value of Canaima is not only environmental, but also political and historical. In 1999, the Venezuelan Constitution recognized the rights of indigenous peoples to their ancestral lands, and it stood as a living result of this new relationship between the state and the native peoples. The stories tell tales of struggle. Since its creation in 1962, the park would have been under siege by forces such as illegal mining and deforestation. However, thanks to collective efforts involving Pemen communities, environmental groups, and even the Venezuelan government, it has managed to protect this natural treasure for future generations. Canaima is a unique gift that Venezuela offers to the world, a place where nature manifests itself in all its grandeur and where cultures remind us of the importance of living in harmony with the planet.
This we have from the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.